Hi guys, welcome to Relationship Stories with TaleTime. The first one is titled, Wife Revealed She's Pregnant. I got a vasectomy a year ago. I played along and exposed her to everyone. The story starts like this. My wife Jill and I had been together for 8 years, married for 5 of them. When we first met in our mid-20s, the chemistry and passion was electric. We were that obnoxious couple who couldn't keep their hands off each other in public. As the years went by though, the spark slowly fizzled out. We still loved each other deeply, but it was more like close friendships than a romantic relationship. Don't get me wrong, the sex was still pretty good when we had it. But between her long hours at work and my frequent business trips, the frequency had dropped off to maybe once a month if we were lucky. We just never seemed to have the energy or time for it anymore. 3 years into our marriage, we had a sincere discussion about having kids. We both loved our nephews and nieces, but neither of us felt a driving desire to be parents ourselves. The idea of screaming babies, sleepless nights, and the huge financial strain didn't appeal to our laid-back, child-free lifestyle. So we mutually decided that kids weren't for us. To make double sure there were no unexpected oops babies, I went ahead and got a vasectomy last year at age 32. Jill was fully on board with my decision, and we celebrated my newly snipped swimmers by taking an adults-only cruise to Mexico. Having parental responsibilities permanently off the table allowed us to really relax and coast through our conventionally child-free marriage. At least, that's what I thought. Until one evening when Jill dropped a bombshell over dinner that made my stomach drop through the floor. "Honey, I have something to tell you," Jill said, putting her fork down. We were having a casual weeknight dinner of reheated leftovers while watching mindless TV. "What's up?" I asked, not really paying attention as I scrolled through my phone. "I'm pregnant," she said hesitantly. Those 2 words snapped my head up. "You're what?" I must have misheard her. "I'm pregnant," she repeated, unable to meet my eyes. "About 8 weeks along." I stared at her in shock, feeling like I had been gut punched. There's no way she could be pregnant, not after my vasectomy. We had both been so certain about our child-free decision that we took the ultimate preventative measure. "Jill, that's not possible. You know I got snipped a year ago," I said slowly, praying this was just some tasteless prank. "We can't have kids." She finally looked up at me with tears in her eyes. "I know, but I really am pregnant, Dave. I took 4 tests and they were all positive." Jill pulled out the set of pregnancy tests from her purse and slid them across the table as proof. My heart pounded as I stared at the 4 undeniable positive results staring back at me. How is this possible? They told me I was sterile after the vasectomy. My mind reeled as I tried to make sense of it. "I don't know," she cried, throwing her hands up. "But those tests are accurate. This baby is yours, I swear." I sat back, rubbing my temples as I tried to process this earth-shattering news. A million thoughts spun through my head. What if the doctors missed something during the vasectomy? What if I was one of those insane miracle cases where it spontaneously reversed itself? Or was the more likely explanation that, no, Jill wouldn't cheat on me? Would she? "Dave, please say something," Jill pleaded, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. "I know this is a shock, God knows I'm still trying to wrap my brain around it. But I really am pregnant with your child." I looked at my wife, this woman I thought I knew inside and out. Her hazel eyes still had the youthful sparkle that first attracted me to her. But now there was weariness there too, dark circles from restless nights weighing her down. I slowly exhaled, making an instant decision to play along for now until I had more answers. Okay. I trust you, babe. If you say you're pregnant, then I believe you." I pulled her into a hug, feeling her body shake with sobs against me. On the outside I remained stoic and supportive, just like a loving husband should act when his wife reveals such monumental news. But internally, I could feel the first seeds of doubt planted in my mind. Because no matter what Jill claimed, I knew there was no way this supposed miracle baby was actually mine. Over the next few days, I quietly observed Jill's behaviors, analyzing every comment and move. She certainly acted like the stereotype of an expectant mother. Her moods cycled wildly and she suddenly had insane food cravings for pickles and ice cream. All her pregnancy symptoms seemed legit. But I couldn't get past that fundamental disconnect in my brain. I had gotten a vasectomy, so how was she pregnant? I knew I had to get to the bottom of this mystery once and for all. I decided to bite the bullet and get a semen analysis done to see if I was truly sterile. Jill was surprised but supportive when I told her about the test. "If it will give you peace of mind, then absolutely," she agreed, giving me a warm hug. "We're in this together." Yet as she embraced me, I felt a nagging sense of doubt. Because if my semen analysis came back sterile like it was supposed to, either Jill was lying, or she had gotten pregnant by another man. Neither scenario was a road I wanted to go down. But I had no choice, I had to learn the truth, one way or another. Whatever that ended up being, I knew it would change everything. I tried to act as normal as possible around Jill over the next few days while I awaited the results of my semen analysis. She stayed in the blissful newlywed phase of her pregnancy, doting over baby books and discussing potential names. A part of me felt guilty for going behind her back, but the larger part knew I had to verify the truth first. When the results came back, my suspicions were confirmed. I was shooting blanks, just as the vasectomy intended. There was no way this baby could biologically be mine unless spontaneous conception was possible. As much as I wanted to delude myself into believing some ridiculous miracle occurred, the more logical part of my brain began putting the pieces together. I was sterile, yet Jill was undeniably pregnant. The only realistic explanation was that she had cheated and gotten knocked up by another man. Just the thought of my wife being intimately involved with someone else made me feel physically ill. Jill and I might have been coasting through a rough patch, but I never imagined she would betray me like this. I was blindsided and heartbroken. Part of me wanted to pack my bags and just leave at that moment. But the other part, the part that still loved and cared for Jill after all these years, needed to get to the bottom of her betrayal. Why had she risked throwing away our marriage vows like this? And with who? I began a secret investigation, utilizing all my amateur detective skills to dig into Jill's activities. When she was working late nights, I snooped through her things, emails, texts, credit card statements. I felt like a total slimeball, but I had to find the truth one way or another. At first, there were no obvious smoking guns that pointed to infidelity. Her messages were mostly about work or chatting with family and friends. Her finances showed no unusual charges for things like sketchy motel rooms or racy lingerie. I almost began to doubt myself and think maybe I was being the unreasonable, paranoid one. That is, until I happened to see one of the numbers mixed in with Jill's frequent contacts pop up with a notification, missed FaceTime from Jake. Jake? I didn't know anyone by that name in Jill's life. My heart pounded as I quickly scrolled through her call log and text history with that number. There were dozens of calls and messages going back for months with friendly greetings like "Hey babe" and "Miss you sexy." My head spun as I realized this was likely the man Jill had been having an affair with, the father of the baby she claimed was miraculously mine. I wanted to vomit at the thought of her being intimate with this Jake person, sharing the type of passion and energy we had lost between us. Looking through the messages, I saw this Jake guy was married too, which made the situation even more sickening. They were both scumbag cheaters carrying on behind their spouses' backs. I quickly took screenshots of the most incriminating messages as evidence. The next time Jill worked late, I thoroughly scoured our bedroom for any other evidence of her infidelity. That's when I noticed one of her dresser drawers seemed inexplicably stuffed to the brim. I pulled it open and froze at the stash of racy lingerie inside, sexy bra and panty sets, sheer negligés, the types of things Jill never wore for me anymore. My heart shattered as I realized she had clearly been dressing up for this other man, treating him to all the passion and romance I had been lacking. Tears burned in my eyes as I clutched one of the negligés, a red lacy number that would have looked amazing on Jill's fit figure. Instead, some other bastard got to see her in it, fulfilling all her desires I apparently was failing at as her husband. I wanted to confront Jill right then and there, to rage at her about what a lying, cheating snake she was. But I forced myself to stay calm and collect every shred of evidence first. I knew she would just deny unless I had proof she couldn't talk her way out of. Over the next couple weeks, I continued monitoring Jill's activities under the radar. The calls and messages with Jake kept up at a fairly constant rate, usually flirty check-ins or making plans to meet up for sex. I wanted to put a stop to it, but my private investigator told me to play along and act normal for now. The cheaters always slip up and reveal more evidence if you don't confront them right away, he advised. As much as it killed me, I had to let this affair play out so I could nail them both. Finally, a planned get-together came that I knew was their scheduled hookup. Jill told me she was going to a coworker's party on a Friday night after work and wouldn't be home until late. Using the phone app to track her whereabouts, I saw her locating Ping at a seedy motel on the outskirts of town. I felt such a noxious mix of anger, disgust, and betrayal knowing what she was doing in that cheap room. Was she wearing one of those lingerie numbers for him? Doing things with him that she hadn't done with me in years? My head swam as I gulped a glass of whiskey, imagining every painful scenario. Around 2 a.m., her location finally pinged leaving the motel. I decided I had gathered enough evidence. It was time to confront my lying, cheating wife once and for all. I sent a short but fateful text, "We need to talk. Come home now." When Jill got back, I was waiting in the living room. One look at my face and she knew I had discovered everything. Jill walked through the front door looking totally busted. Her makeup was smeared, hair disheveled, and there was a fading hickey on her neck. She had clearly just come from her tryst with her affair partner Jake. Dave? She stammered when she saw me sitting on the couch, nostrils flared and eyes burning with rage. What are you doing up? Cut the bullshit, Jill, I said through gritted teeth. I know everything. Her face paled as the realization hit her. Somehow I had discovered her secret infidelity.
Dave, I can explain.
Explain what? I shouted, standing up and beginning to pace. Explain how you've been carrying on an affair behind my back for months? Explain how this miracle baby you're pregnant with couldn't possibly be mine because I'm sterile from a vasectomy? Tears welled up in Jill's eyes as she opened and closed her mouth like a gasping fish. For once, she was at a complete loss for words, unable to lie and manipulate her way out of this. I pulled out my phone and began reading off the incriminating texts and call logs between her and this Jake person. Hey babe, can't wait to see you later. Miss your sexy body? Or how about don't worry, my husband is out of town on a business trip, you can come over after midnight. Sound familiar? Jill dropped her head in shame as I exposed each new piece of damning evidence. I could see from her body language that she knew the gig was up. So yeah, I have plenty of proof you've been cheating on me, you lying snake, I snarled, feeling hatred coursing through me like never before. But go ahead, please explain and make your excuses. I can't wait to hear them. Jill let out a choked sob, her shoulders heaving. She squeezed her eyes shut for a moment before finally meeting my furious stare. You're right, about everything, she said in a small voice. I've been having an affair with a coworker named Jake. And the baby I'm pregnant with, it's his, not yours. There it was, the confirmation I had been dreading for weeks ever since her pregnancy bomb upended my life. You goddamn whore. I exploded, sending a lamp flying across the room in a burst of rage. How could you do this to me, to us? After everything we've been through? Jill flinched, huddling against the wall as I advanced on her, fists clenched and eyes wild. I'm so sorry, she sobbed, her whole body trembling. It started off as just an innocent flirtation with a coworker. But then one thing led to another and we got carried away. It was a mistake, a horrible mistake that just kept happening. So you decided to get knocked up by this scumbag? Real classy move, I spat. Jill shook her head frantically. No. The pregnancy was a complete accident. When I missed my period, I thought it was just stress or my birth control at first. It wasn't until I took a test that I realized. Her voice trailed off in shame. Realized what? That you fucked up big time and got yourself impregnated by your side piece? I laughed bitterly. Then you tried to pawn it off on me as some insane miracle baby. That's low, even for a cheating skank like you. I know, I was so scared and confused. Jill wailed. I didn't know what to do. I thought if I just played it off like everything was normal, maybe you wouldn't find out. But I see now how deluded I was being. I'm so sorry, Dave. I shook my head in disbelief, unable to even look at my traitorous wife any longer. Sorry just doesn't cut it this time, Jill. Not after you broke our marriage vows and got impregnated by another man behind my back. Please, we can work through this. She begged frantically. We can go to counseling, I'll do anything. I promise I'll never see Jake again. But I was already done, unable to fathom trying to repair things after her level of betrayal. I stormed to the front door and flung it open. Get out, I said in a low, menacing tone. Get out of my house and don't come back until you've aborted your bastard child. We're through. Jill opened her mouth to protest but seemed to think better of it. She solemnly nodded, tears streaking her cheeks, before grabbing her purse and exiting without a word. I slammed the door behind her, suddenly finding myself completely alone in the house we had once called our home. Our sanctuary of love and trust, now forever shattered beyond repair. Over the next few days, I didn't hear a peep from Jill. Part of me was relieved to have this lying, cheating snake out of my life after her despicable betrayal. But the other part of me still loved her deeply and agonized over whether I had made the right decision in kicking her out so abruptly. My mental anguish only compounded when I received a barrage of calls and texts from our families, demanding to know what was going on. Apparently Jill had been running around telling everyone that we were working through some marriage issues, but conveniently left out the part where she got impregnated by another man during her affair. I'm so excited for you two to be having a baby. My mom gushed during one phone call. I can't wait to be a grandma. I cringed, feeling sick to my stomach knowing Jill was lying directly to my own mother's face. When I tried to correct her and explain the reality of the situation, she brushed me off. Oh Dave, don't be so pessimistic. She chided. I know every marriage has its ups and downs, but a baby is such a wonderful blessing. You and Jill just need to work through whatever problems you're having so you can be a happy family. I quickly got off the call, my head spinning from Jill's audacious tapestry of lies. If she was so bold to deceive our own families, there was no limit to the depths she would stoop to keep up this facade of immaculate conception pregnancy. A few days later, I received a group text from Jill announcing a surprise early birthday party she was throwing for me at her parents' house that weekend. She claimed it would be the perfect opportunity to get all our family together and share our wonderful news about her pregnancy. I saw right through her ploy. She was using this party as an excuse to get me there and strategically reveal her doctored fairy tale version of events. Once she had me boxed in a room with all our friends and relatives ready to conveniently take her side, that's when she would really lay it on thick about her ridiculous miracle baby story. And with me being the only dissenting voice, I would look like the irrational, bitter one. Well, two could play at that game. If Jill wanted to take this sick charade public, then I would make sure the truth came out, no matter how ugly it would get. When I arrived at her parents' house that weekend, I was immediately engulfed by the fake smiles and well wishes of our friends and family. Jill played the part of the virginal, glowing mother-to-be perfectly, wearing a sleeveless dress that clung to her barely showing bump as she accepted hugs and fielded rapid-fire questions. How far along are you? Do you know what you're having yet? Have you thought of any names? I stewed silently in the corner with a drink in hand, wanting to slam it over each of their naive heads. Didn't these people have any sense of intuition that could penetrate Jill's sickening lies? Were they all really that blinded? I decided I had to take this situation into my own hands. During a lull in the festivities, I clinked my glass with a fork to get everyone's attention. Can I just say something here? I said, shooting Jill a look that made her face blanch. I pulled out my phone and pulled up the screenshotted photos and conversations between Jill and her affair partner Jake that I had originally uncovered weeks ago. For those of you who aren't aware, about a month ago I discovered that my wife Jill has been having an affair with one of her coworkers, I announced, my voice wavering with anger and hurt. She got pregnant from sleeping with this man, not me. Because unbeknownst to Jill, I actually got a vasectomy last year, meaning I'm sterile and physically unable to be the father of this baby. A collective gasp went up from the crowd as I exposed Jill's betrayal in all its sordid detail. Her own parents looked on in abject horror as I showed the flirty text conversations between their daughter and her lover. That's impossible. Jill's mom cried out. She told us, she said it was yours. She's lying, I stated bluntly. Jill has been lying this entire time, straight to all of your faces about whose child this really is. She got knocked up by another man during her affair, and then tried to pawn it off on me as some miracle pregnancy to cover her own cheating tracks. You could have heard a pin drop as I let that harsh truth detonate in front of everyone. Jill was bawling at this point, unable to even meet anyone's stunned gaze. Well? I shouted, turning to her. Aren't you going to own up to the truth here? Or do you need me to show them the motel footage of you two going at it like a couple of horny rabbits? Jill finally looked up at me with raw anguish on her face and slowly nodded in defeat. He's right. Everything Dave said is true. The baby is not his. A chorus of gasps and sobs echoed from our friends and family members as they processed Jill's deceit. I suddenly felt a weird combination of sadness at having to hurt them this way, but also twisted satisfaction that Jill was finally being held accountable. As the fallout rained down around us, I knew one thing was crystal clear: our marriage was completely and utterly over. There would be no coming back from the level of betrayal and deception that Jill had inflicted. In the days and weeks that followed, I fielded a barrage of texts, calls, and checkup visits from friends and family members. The revelation of Jill's affair and deceitful pregnancy lie had detonated like a nuclear bomb, shaking the foundation of everyone's reality. While some condemned me for being so brutally public and exposing the truth, the majority seemed to understand why I did it. Jill had constructed this insidious web of lies that she refused to untangle, even when backed into a corner. By going scorched earth at her phony surprise party, I had mercifully blown her deception to pieces all at once rather than letting it slowly fester and decay our relationships with loved ones. Besides, if I'm being honest with myself, a part of me wanted that punishing, vengeful public reckoning. A large part of the pain from Jill's betrayal was the secretive deception behind it all. She had coldly looked me in the eyes and told lie after lie as she carried on her torrid affair. And then she tried to gaslight me into believing I was the father of another man's baby. My male ego had been shattered beyond repair. Publicly dismantling her facade of lies in front of everyone was my way of regaining that sense of control, manhood and power that she had stripped away from me. Jill certainly paid the price too. She became a scorned pariah in our social circles, losing multiple close friends who couldn't get past the egregious violations of trust. Her own parents, devout Catholics, hadn't spoken a word to her since that fateful party where I'd torn away the last shreds of their daughter's remaining dignity. For me, however, There was an odd sense of newfound liberation and weightlessness as I prepared to move on without Jill. Yeah, getting cheated on and cuckolded to that degree by my wife created unimaginable trauma that would likely take years of therapy to fully unpack. But once I embraced the reality of our divorce, I realized I could finally be free of all that baggage and dissatisfaction that had been slowly suffocating our marriage over the years. Free from treading water in a loveless relationship where we were just going through the motions. Free from the shackled expectations of parenthood that deep down, I never really wanted. As painful as it was to go through such a brutal public separation, I tried to remain optimistic that this could be a chance for a total rebirth and reinvention of my life. A chance to rediscover that old spark and passion that had fizzled out over the years. To put myself first and reclaim my own wants and needs, without having to revolve around tending to a family. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't insanely envious of my buddies who were unmarried and living that freewheeling bachelor lifestyle in their 30s. Staying out until last call without having to answer to a nagging wife, eating greasy takeout on the couch in their underwear, shamelessly binging video games and porn all weekend without shame. That unbridled hedonistic freedom was extremely appealing to my situation. But at the same time, a larger part of me hoped to eventually find a new, more compatible partner down the road once I worked through the waterfall of emotions from this ordeal. I knew that the trusting vulnerability required for such a relationship would be hard to achieve after being so systematically lied to and cheated on. Still, I remained cautiously optimistic that the future could bring someone worthy into my life who would never betray me in such a devastating way. Only time would tell what lay ahead. But one thing was for certain, the ultimate betrayal was behind me. Whatever challenges the road ahead brought, I knew I had the strength and resilience to face them head on now that I was free of Jill's toxic web of deceit. I could move forward, learning from the mistakes of my past while forging a new, drama-free path. A path of honesty, empowerment and self-actualization. It may have been the most painful way possible, but this was my chance at a rebirth. And I intended to seize it with both hands. It had been 1,095 days since I kicked Jill out and filed for divorce after exposing her sordid affair and lies about the pregnancy. While that initial period was brutal, filled with endless crying fits and moments questioning my self-worth, I eventually made it through to the other side. Therapy helped immensely in unpacking all the traumatic betrayal and giving me tools to rebuild my shattered confidence. Over time, the white-hot fury slowly transmuted into a dull indifference towards Jill. I realized staying angry only gave her more power over me. My friends were also a crucial support system during those dark days, always ready with video games, bar nights, or ridiculous antics to get my mind off the situation. Having that reliable circle to lean on was huge for preventing me from slipping into an even deeper depression. Professionally, I doubled down at work and actually earned a substantial promotion, thanks to my hyperfocus. Throwing myself into new, challenging projects was an effective way to keep my mind occupied rather than ruminating over the past. I even tried getting back into dating after about a year, though it was an admittedly rocky road at first. Opening up enough to make myself vulnerable again wasn't easy. But I learned not to punish every new woman for the unforgivable sins of my ex-wife. There were certainly some misfires mixed in with promising situations that fizzled out for one reason or another. But I kept plugging along, constantly improving my ability to read situations and avoid any potential red flags reminiscent of Jill's narcissistic, deceitful behavior patterns. Eventually, I met someone who immediately stood out from the rest, Stacy. From our instant connection over shared values, compatible life goals, and just an effortless, natural rapport, I knew there was something different about this one. We took things slowly, establishing a foundation of trust and communication that was the antithesis of the deception that poisoned my past relationship. Over the course of 2 years, we grew increasingly serious, finally moving in together and blending our lives. While I had accepted potentially being child-free forever after the Jill tumult, Stacy expressed her strong desire to be a mother. After much soul-searching, I decided I was open to the possibility with the right partner this time. Stacy ended up getting pregnant naturally, and when the home test showed positive, there were no doubts or trust issues. Only pure elation that we would be starting a family, the right way this time around. Oliver Daniel was born 9 months later, a squirming 7-pound bundle of joy that I still can't believe is my son. Holding him for the first time, I was awash with overpowering emotions of newfound purpose and unconditional love. As challenging as those newborn days of sleep deprivation and endless diaper changes were, I was fully present and grateful for every moment, the polar opposite of Jill's experience, always tinged with anxiety and guilt over her web of lies. These days, my little family of 3 is thriving. Oliver is now an energetic toddler, and I cherish each stage of watching him grow and develop into his own little person. And Stacy, words can't express the depth of my appreciation for her strength in getting me to this point. With her by my side, I've been able to fully heal from those dark days and move forward as a better man, centered on what truly matters most. While the pain of Jill's life-altering betrayal will always be a part of my story, it no longer defines or consumes me. If anything, that excruciating experience has made me value honesty and loyalty above all else, something I'm proud to model for my son as he grows up. I'm in control of my own narrative again, making the most of this second chance at creating a happy, loving family. I'm no longer that broken man drowning in the fallout of my ex-wife's deceit. I'm free. Wow guys, what a roller coaster of a story. I have to admit, I was so satisfied seeing that selfish liar get her comeuppance though, loved how the protagonist refused to take any more of her BS and went full scorched earth to expose the truth in front of everyone. She absolutely deserved to be disgraced like that. Cheaters never prosper. He came out of that nightmare situation stronger than ever as a person. And guys, with this we have reached the end of the video. If you cannot get enough of my content, please subscribe to my channel, like the video and post a comment to support me. I will see you again tomorrow.